Hello everybody, this is Fred Burke with TotalFinancialLiberty.com. I wanted to talk to you guys today about other wholesalers and tying up your deals. I've talked to a few students today on the phone and via email who have had deals that they want to go ahead, of course, and assign their contract, and they're running into other wholesalers who want to do the same thing. Now, you have to understand that doing a double close is hard enough. Doing a triple close, I've heard of one or two. I don't know anybody personally who's pulled them off, but I've read about it on Tim's site and a few other sites. But you know, they're not the easiest thing in the world to do. So when you have a property under contract, if you have an option on that contract, make sure that you have a closing company that is going to be able to close your deals, your assignment deals, and your double closes. So make sure you have an investor-friendly title company that you can use. I spoke to somebody earlier that wanted to use, that said they didn't have one, and they have a deal, and the person who wants to write the deal up wants them to use their closing company. So, you know, if you can make a few $1,000s off a deal very quickly for doing very little, I say go ahead and do it. But you have to be really careful who you're dealing with. You're promising a seller that you're going to be able to sell his property, his or her property. So for one thing, you have a sort of a responsibility to the seller to keep your word, to do what you said that it is that you would do. So, you know, I always say going into this thing, don't promise anybody anything, but tell them you'll do the best that you can. But when you are filling out a contract and you have another wholesaler calls you or comes out to see the deal and says that he wants to go ahead and write it up and write you a contract, well then the way I do it is I take a non-refundable deposit. Whether it's to be held by me or within the escrow, I don't care, but you know, there's going to be a non-refundable $1,000 deposit paid to somebody, where if he does not act and close on this deal within the time frame that he said that he would, that $1,000 is mine. That's not going to him. So I prefer to take it for myself. So if I'm getting a $6,000 assignment fee, I'll take a $1,000 or a $2,000 non-refundable deposit written to me, and I'll write the balance up on the assignment contract as $4,000. So for example, if it's $66,000 I negotiated with the seller, or $60,000 I negotiated with the seller, and I'm selling it for $66,000, and another investor comes along and says, okay, I'll pay the $66,000. Okay, that's fine, well and good. Here's my assignment contract, let's go ahead and write it up. Now, if he doesn't want to use that contract and he wants to use a state contract, that's fine also, but there's a few things you have to watch for. First of all, you want your $1,000 or $2,000 non-refundable deposit and the balance to be paid to you at close. So whether you have to put that in special provisions, that's fine. But you want to be sure on a few things. The closing costs. Who's paying these closing costs? What have you negotiated with your seller, first of all? You know, because normally sellers, they have closing costs that they're responsible for. So what have you negotiated and touched on with your seller as far as closing costs go? If you're saying you're going to buy the property for $60,000, is he going to cover his end of the closing costs, or did you negotiate $60,000 cash net to him and he's going to walk away with $60,000? You have to be really, really careful on how you worded this and how you put it in the contract. A couple of the students that I spoke to today said they didn't know. So realistically, they didn't know what they could do. So if they negotiate $66,000 or $60,000 with the seller, $6,000 is their assignment fee, so they're getting $66,000 from this other investor. You know, who's paying all the closing costs? Who's paying for the survey? Who's paying for the title policy? Who's paying for the appraisal if an appraisal needs to be done? You have to make sure that you're real sure on who's paying for what, and be very clear, because this could blow a deal for you, especially if you're on a tight frame. If your assignment contract's only good for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you have to move quickly. So if you go and you deal with another investor who simply doesn't want to, and this is how you're going to weed them out. When I deal with an investor and he comes to me and he says, okay, I want this property, what do I have to do? Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to cut me a check. And I want a check for $1,000 non-refundable deposit made out to me or my corporation. And it's going to say non-refundable deposit, and he's going to get a receipt saying non-refundable deposit with the address on it and lot and block and all that stuff referring to that property. So if he backs out of that deal, he knows he's going to lose $1,000. Second of all, the reason why I do that is because a lot of these guys are they're just wholesalers, just like what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with being a wholesaler, but fact is they're going to try to go find somebody else to buy your deal. And when they go and do that you're talking about a triple closed end. You got to close your end, you got to close his end, and his buyer's end. So that's going to be a hard deal to close. And I had one student today that told me that the person who worked for a big company here in Houston said he did not want to do an assignment contract, that he did not have a closing company that did assignment contracts. But that made no sense to me at all. So I'd be a little bit leery of him, as I told her. I'd really watch myself with him. And what's he going to put in the TREC contract? Who's going to pay for closing costs? Who's going to pay for a survey? Who's going to pay for all the things that come up in a closing? My deal is, if I tell my guy $60,000 and he's getting $60,000 cash, I'm going to ask him, or I'm going to tell him, there's going to be closing costs on your side. How much? Well, I'll try to figure it out the best as I can. If he says, well, no, then I'm not going to go for it, then I know that what he wants is he wants 60 net. So I have to raise the price to say 65. And then I have to ask for 70 or 71 to get my money out of the deal. So you have to be really careful and be really sure what you negotiate with your sellers and also with your buyers. So be real careful and always be upfront with your sellers and cover every aspect so nothing can go wrong to keep the deal from closing. Again, this is Fred Burke with TotalFinancialLiberty.com. Total Financial Liberty can be yours. All you have to do is go out and take it and make it happen. Take action and pull the trigger. We're here to help you. Again, www.TotalFinancialLiberty.com. And until the next video, I'll talk to you then.